Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a great and wonderful day. And unfortunately for Trump, it's not a great and wonderful day because Democrats are continuing to go full on dictatorship, full on authoritarian, and they're not ending here. Now, I think I had somebody in the comment section, why would you vote differently, or why you keep on voting, or why you keep on voting wrong? Well, there is, as I said before, there is a reason why you would vote differently. Maybe mostly because if you vote for the Democrats, you're going to lose all your rights. At the very least, if you vote for the candidates that are in the Republican Party, the chances of you losing your rights is significantly less of a problem. And by the way, you would also not have to worry, if you're a woman, you would not have to worry about your sports getting taken over by trans people. But nonetheless, we have this. Maine Secretary of State disqualifies Trump from primary ballot. Maine Secretary of State on Thursday ruled former President Trump is disqualified from holding office and appearing on the state's ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment over his role in the January 6, 2021 assault on the U.S. Capitol. The U.S. Constitution does not tolerate an assault on the foundations of our government, and Section 336 requires me to act in response. Secretary of the State Shenna Bellows, a Democrat, wrote in her decision. The thing is that this woman is going off of the main thing of the Colorado one thing, right? So that being said, if you go into the Colorado, that hasn't really been settled. So if the Colorado goes down, it does go through, then so it does Maine's, which is also another problem because Trump hasn't been exactly been accused confirmed to be to start an insurrection and stuff like that. So that's the thing that's going on here. So I see a problem with this, and we're going to go briefly over the CNN lawyer pretty much giving the just desserts to these idiots on thinking that this isn't going to be a good idea. Given the compressed time frame, the novel constitutional questions involved, the importance of this case, and the pending ballot preparation deadlines, I will suspend the effect of my decision until the Superior Court rules on any appeal or the time to appeal has expired, Bellows added. In an interview with CBS News Thursday night, Bellows further explained her reasoning. In my obligation under Maine law was to issue a decision very quickly, not permitted under Maine law to wait for the United States Supreme Court to intervene in this particular proceeding. Bellows told CBS News, I was required to issue that decision, and I could only look at the hearing evidence and facts that were presented during that hearing. In evaluating the weight of evidence, it made clear that Mr. Trump was aware of the tenure that was laid in a multi-month effort to legitimize the 2020 election, and then chose to light a match. Right, because that is exactly what he said. I think we all remember him specifically saying go peacefully and don't start a riot, etc., etc. So that's what happened. Also, we've seen multiple times where there were FBI agents at that place where the Democrats and our establishment refused to show all the 200 hours of the footage. And what we see from the footage that they released, there is probably most likely more. Then that means what we've seen was FBI agents letting people in, showing their ID badge, and doing some really crazy stuff. So committing entrapment, which is you can't be, you can't go to jail for. You can't be put into jail for all this stuff and all that, right? So that being said, I don't know where they're going with this because Trump hasn't really incited anything, and it takes a lot of idiot power to say that, oh well, he did the insurrection and stuff like that, right? Because he's not super high on the polls, he's boosting the polls as we speak, and these fools are thinking like, oh, this is a good idea. What you're doing is removing the ability for the American people to choose on who they want as president, and they are using their dictatorship and all that other stuff to withhold it. So it says, I say the impact on the effect of my decision pending that opportunity to appeal to the Supreme Court because I think it's really important recognizing how fast the timeline is, but also recognizing the requirements that I have as Secretary of State to prepare a ballot to wait and see what the court tells us to do. Bellows told CBS News. So no ballots have been printed, no ballots will be printed until the Superior Court makes a decision. So yeah. This is also the same person that removed Chris Christie from the ballot. But again, Chris Christie didn't have enough signatures, so that made sense. This one, however, is going completely off of the Colorado ruling, and that hasn't even been decided yet. So without further ado, I'm going to show the actual CNN lawyer talking about this and saying on how asinine and stupid this is, and how this doesn't make any type of this wouldn't even get past the bar for this type of legal analysis and stuff like that. So take a look.
Amendment Section 3 says in plain text that if you shall have engaged in insurrection, you can't be in office. She takes that to mean that if she determines that Donald Trump engaged in insurrection, he can't be on the Maine primary ballot. Is it that simple?
No, it's not that simple. So clearly, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says, engage in insurrection, you're out. We all have that. The complicated part, and where we are going to see this play out in the courts, is who gets to decide and by what process. Now, it's important to note, and in the ruling, the Secretary of State we just heard from says she's basically following the same legal reasoning as the Colorado Supreme Court did last week. And she says in her ruling, if this gets struck down in Colorado, we're out of luck, too. So she's basing it on the same legal argument. Let me sort of lay out the arguments both sides. And by the way, it's worth saying, we're all theorizing here. We're in legally unknown territory. The argument against is, first of all, the 14th Amendment, Section 5, says Congress has the authority to pass laws to implement this. They did. They passed the criminal law. And the argument is that means Congress, not the states. But perhaps, and this is the argument that the Maine Secretary of State in Colorado made, the states can do it too. If that's true, then Section 2, Question 2, is were the processes, were these hearings fair? Did they comport with due process? And I think there's a question there with regard to what Maine did. Because if you look at the hearing, and she details this in the ruling, they heard from one fact witness, a law professor. She based her ruling on a lot of documents, but also YouTube clips, news reports, things that would never pass the bar in normal court. She's not a lawyer, by the way. It's a smartly written decision, clearly consulted with lawyers, but this is an unelected. She's chosen by the state legislature.
She's elected by the state legislature.
Chosen, elected by the legislature, but not democratically elected. Not a knock. That's just the way it's set up in Maine. And this hearing, look, it doesn't have to be a criminal trial. We don't have to have all the protections. But I think the argument you'll hear from opponents is, one, not up to the states to do this. This is why we have all different decisions from all different states. And two, the procedures were not up to snuff.
And this is what a lot of people are saying, that they're not following actual normal procedure, and it's most likely going to fall flat. The problem I have with this is that we all know this is politically motivated, and this is an issue that is seeming to show everybody that the Democrats are being authoritarian, that the Democrats have no ability to win the election normally, and this is also hurting their 2020 elections or any other election, because it shows that did they actually do similar things or other things that were not at this grandeur to this level. Because it seems that this is something immensely problem that even CNN lawyers are saying, no, this is bad. Now, we have even more information from Nick Rekieta. And the Rekieta law pretty much says that it's self-inflicting. By Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is self-inflicting, and it doesn't make much sense. I'm going to show you the clip here, and you guys get to judge on whether or not he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or if it makes a lot of sense. Take a look.
14th Amendment, I'm going to say is, but was fully self-executing. The argument that supports the 14th Amendment, Section 3, being fully self-executing necessitates that the 14th Amendment, Section 3, was a one-time provision that could not be applied in the future. The argument would be that it was so self-evident that the insurrection being referred to is the Civil War, in which all of the participation in the Civil War is expressly identifiable. And the list of officers, representatives, senators, and delegates to the president and the vice president that is listed there is so obviously conclusory, because everybody who did that is known. It is known, right? Like Khal Drogo. So you could say that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is self-executing, but only insofar as to the existing, obviously self-referential insurrection that had just occurred and ended a few years prior, and that the amendment was directly referencing. But to suggest that any quote-unquote insurrection in the future would be similarly self-executing is folly, because what even is an insurrection? An insurrection is not an act of war that is found by Congress. And we have a problem, right? Because there is actually reference to an insurrection in the Constitution. Does anybody remember what that is? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the commander-in-chief, I believe, can call upon the militia to suppress an insurrection. Did the commander-in-chief call upon the militia to suppress an insurrection?
Yes, and this has a lot to do with, it makes a lot more sense because the commander-in-chief at that point in time was Donald Trump. And how does the commander-in-chief, aka the president, aka Donald Trump, able to be in part of his own insurrection? That doesn't really make sense. You would have to call it a coup, I may believe, if you even want to make it to sense, but you would have to have him do it, and he's the one that stops the insurrection from happening. So I am not quite sure on how these Democrats, on how these dictators, authoritarians, are even going to get past this, because they're not even citing good law or even good ideas or any good talking points for this. And this is the issue that we have. And it all goes on the merit of whether or not we bring up the discussions of whether or not that the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is counting on the actual Civil War back way back then, or if we're talking about now in current day, which wouldn't make much sense. We have to apply these laws fairly and accurately, and this is not what's happening. I think that this specific part of the amendment, or the Constitution, probably should be erased, only because it seems like something, this was a one-time use type of Second Amendment. But then the core amendment part. But this is also going to lead to other Democrats thinking that we could eliminate other parts of the amendments just because. This is a very hairy situation, but again, this shows that the Democrats don't seem to know what they're talking about, and they're bringing up bogus actual claims or laws or things that does not make much sense legally. And that's it. I'm not saying I'm a lawyer. I'm just taking the opinions of somebody else and putting two and two together like, well, that doesn't make sense. These lawyers, even the CNN lawyers that are on their side, are saying the exact same things that the other lawyers are on our side. So how does this make any sense what the Democrats are doing? It's insanity, and it needs to stop. This is another reason why I say you have only lesser two evils. Right now, the Democrats are being authoritarians and dictators. So you have to choose wisely on which ones you are going to have. Plain and simple. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share. As always, take care.
I'm disgusted by what I see in public. Even people closest to us can't be trusted, 'cause it's algorithmic disease, the social media.